My name is Ernest Wagner. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Uh, I went to Northeastern High from 1947 to 1950, where I made All-City and All-State before I went to Wayne, which I started at Wayne University, which is Wayne State now. I played at Wayne State in 1950 to 1953, where I played with two friends, personal friends, Johnny Kline and Charlie Primus. Powder was one of Wayne's best basketball teams during that era. We were fortunate enough, our sophomore year, to be 10th, rated in the 18th, top 18, top 20. At the preseason, we were selected in the top 10 before things happened where I had to drop out of Wayne in 1953, at the end of that season, I think it was, I dropped out. In 1954, I stayed in Detroit, was scouted by the Harlem Globetrotters. During that period of time, I was also fortunate enough to have a tryout with, then it was the Milwaukee Hawks. They had asked me to try out for their team. During that time, it was only a couple black basketball players in the NBA. I was very undecided which way to go, but I ended up with trying out with the Globetrotters in '54 and making a team. When I played with the Globetrotters from 1954 to 1967.
Talk to me about what inspired you to play basketball. What had, even as a child, even brought you to the game?
Well, in the neighborhood that I came up in during that era, most of the young black fellows, they were always interested in sports. During the time, my dad, he was always interested in boxing. This is something that he wanted me to do. But I was more into baseball. Baseball was something that I really loved and wanted to do. But during that time, as I was growing up, basketball seemed to came into my life, and I got more involved into basketball.
Recall back to when you played. Talk to me about some experiences on the road, playing the game. Bring me back to when you were playing and what it was like being around the fellas, being on the bus, traveling.
Well, in 1954, when I made the Harlem Globetrotters, during that time they had a training camp, and I recall that during that time it was about 100 guys trying out for the team, and they kept only 10, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the 10. During the time, I had never been away from home like that, and it was a good experience to be able to make the team and meet guys that were older, and it was things that I didn't know about that I learned from the older players on the team, and it was things that I cherish today. The way to carry yourself, the way to be a person to, if you're going to represent something like an organization, then that's the way you should carry yourself, on and off the court. And that's something that I think is missing today.
You mentioned today. Talk to me about some of those differences. Elaborate on the differences that you see from the game when you played and nowadays, how you see the NBA players, the college players. Talk about the evolution or maybe the digression of the game if you feel that things have been lost.
I do feel that things have been lost to an extent. I feel that the players of today is not as concerned about maybe winning as much as they are about the kind of money that they make. To me, it's all about money. I even think about them when I think about the Harlem Globetrotters. At one time, I guess the NBA was more competitive as far as basketball, but now it's more like a show to me. I mean, sometimes I'd hate to even look at the NBA because if you know the game and if you come from an era where things was done different, then you see so many mistakes and so many things are done that you say, well, why have they changed the game so?
Mm-hmm. Now, knowing what you know now, what would you have changed about maybe your experience or also about just the game itself? What would you have done differently?
Well, when I joined the Harlem Globetrotters, it was something that I had seen when I was a kid, the Harlem Globetrotters, and it was like a dream. I never really thought that I would make the Harlem Globetrotters. When the opportunity came and I was there, of course I was glad. But I was more of a competitive basketball player. I wasn't a showman. This is something that I wish many times that even when I tried out with the Hawks, I was undecided because there was only 2 black in the NBA, whether I could make it or not. A lot of days I think back and I said, man, you should at least gave it a try, because I was more of a competitive ball player, and it was I think the pride, that's with me. It's just about how you carry yourself and how much pride you have for the game.
You talked about pride, being a black man. Talk about your experiences, both at home and abroad. What it was like to be a black man at the time playing basketball and how you were perceived.
Well, we went to a lot of countries, and I had experienced racism already in high school in the city of Detroit. In fact, when I made All City, All State, I was things that happened with my coach there on the racial situation. I carry it's like a scar I carry today. I played with 4 white boys at the time, and I was the star of the team, and they refused to let me in the Sheridan Cadillac in Detroit. But my coach still took these guys and another person in my place. Well, this was a hurting thing. Really, it followed me in some more things that happened like this while I was in high school. But when I got with the Globetrotters, I experienced this same thing in the South. I've been in Idaho. In the country. But it was something that I guess it made you grow and try to realize that you have to deal with these things. And I couldn't change it. One person couldn't change it. And then what was so bad, thinking it was only in this country, I experienced it in Australia. I've seen people, when a person walk up to us and, call you out of your name and say things to you. And it was hurting because we were over there to represent the United States as goodwill ambassadors.
On a lighter note, take me back to a good story, a good humorous, funny story about your experiences with the Globetrotters. Recall something that really stuck in your mind on the opposite side of a scar, something that's stayed with you and has been warm to you all along. A humorous story, something funny.
Well, I was just kidding Meadowlark last night. In fact, when Meadowlark Lemon joined the Harlem Globetrotters, I was his roommate. That was during the time that Reese Tatum had left the Trotters, and this was like 1955, and me and Meadowlark were roommates, and I recall that Lemon, he had been in service, and he was spent a lot of his time over in Germany, so he knew how to speak the language. He knew how to get around. So one night, some of the guys we was in the room messing around, having fun, just kidding, and nowhere to go really at the time, we thought. So I come back down to the room, and so Lemon wasn't there, about 3 or 4 in the morning. So I go back upstairs. I said, man, I don't know where Meadowlark is. I said, I hope nothing hadn't happened to him. I said, he don't usually do this. So the guy said, well, what we're gonna do, we'll go down and we'll wait till he come in. So we all went to my room and we sat there and we had a camera. And so finally he drives up in his cab and he gets out, and when he comes in the room, all this stuff, we just flashed and took a picture of him. And I always think about how the expression on his face was when he seen us that morning. And so we was kidding him. The next day on the bus, when he got on, the guys wouldn't even say anything to him, jokingly, And I always think about that. I said, that was, these was things that, when you travel with guys, you get to know guys, and you become a family. You really become where you are. These guys are like your family. And it's today, some of these guys I'm in touch with. In fact, one guy named Carl Green, we've been close over the years, even after we stopped playing.
Last question. What does it mean to you in the future of black men in basketball for the formation of the Black Legends Foundation? What does this mean to you?
Well, the foundation, Dr. Kline, which is my best friend, he organized the Black Legends organization. And what I see about the Black Legends myself, I think it's good because it brings us together. but it's a story to be really told. It's so many things that need to be told about guys that didn't have the chance to be able to do better things, and it's also the history. A lot of people like myself, I didn't really know until Dr. Kline brought us together about some of the ex-Globetrotters that's still living in their 80s. These guys have so much history about basketball, it's scary. Because I thought when we organized, when Dr. Kline organized it, that we were more or less talking about doing our era. But now we done went back to the 30s. And when I see these old guys and I listen to them, and I said, man, it's a shame that, and they tell stories somewhat similar to what I went through. So it's been going on all the way back there into my era. Is it really going to continue to be like this forever? You know? So it's something to think about. And I'm glad to be part of this organization because I hope that this will open the doors for people to really know about the history of black basketball players.
Thank you. Good interview.